Thank you for tuning in to your one and only Track and Field Bleacher Report. I'm your official host, the Trackhead here, coming to you saying happy holidays, hope you have a happy new year and all that good stuff. I'm coming to you with a review for the 2018 NCAA Division I Track and Field Women's and Men's DMR. So I'm going to start with the Men's DMR. So this is going to be my final video for the upcoming 2018 track and field season for the NCAA previews. The season will be getting started probably next week or the next week or two. Most of the schools will be opening up within the next 2 weeks. So the season will be here. So I'll start doing review videos for as those meets come in. But I wanted to end with the men's and women's DMR. So I'm going to get to the men's DMR. Getting to the men's DMR. In 2017, it took 9:31:26 to qualify for nationals. The DMR is a little bit of an interesting event because the teams that run the times to qualify for nationals a lot of times aren't the same teams that run once we get to nationals. So because of the individual events, the schedule, a lot of times the runners can't double or triple back and run the DMR and their individual events. So sometimes the DMR at nationals can be a little bit watered down, but it's just how it goes. Last year, Indiana, they had the second fastest time of the season. They ran 9:28. They got fifth at NCs, and they returned their entire squad that ran that 9:28 with that second fastest time of the season. Ole Miss, they won nationals, but they lose Craig Ingles, so that's a huge loss for them. They returned 2 of the 4 legs that ran at nationals, their 800 leg and their 1600 leg that ran at nationals. They returned those 2 runners that ran the 800 leg and the 1600 leg of that relay. So losing 2 of the 4 members that ran from their national winning relay last indoor may be a little bit difficult. Stanford, they had some troubles last year at nationals. They got last. They ran like 10 flat at nationals. They must have had a little mix-up or and maybe some problems at one of the exchanges or getting boxed up. They have a talented roster this year, so they can really definitely be a lot better than they were at nationals this year. They had the 3rd fastest time of the season last year. They ran 9:28 as well last season. They had the 3rd fastest time of the season. They returned their 1200 leg, their 800 leg, and their 1600 legs that all ran that 9:28 from last year. So you can add in Sean McGorty, and they could have they could be the team to beat for 2018. I don't know which events that Sean McGorty would actually run this coming indoor. I mean, he could do the 3K or he can do the mile, or maybe just focus on the mile and not run the DMR. But if he did a 3K, then he could possibly run the DMR. So, but if you add him into the mix, you also have DJ Principal that you can add in there. So Stanford, they have a talented roster, and I think that Stanford will be the team to beat this year in the DMR. Oklahoma State, they returned the majority of their relay that ran 9:28 for the 4th best time of 2017. They got 6th at nationals. Joshua Thompson didn't run on that relay. So again, that's another example of someone, they have a good anchor leg that probably ran that 9:28 to qualify them for nationals. But once they got to nationals, Joshua Thomas didn't run the 1600 leg. So he focused on his individual events. Arkansas, they were 7th at nationals. They ran a season best of 9:30. They returned their 1200, their 400, and their 1600 legs. They have one of the better 400 legs. So a lot of times the 400 legs, they all kind of run around the same time. But if you have someone like an Arkansas that has a potential 46 split on a 400 leg, that can separate them for a 48 or 49 split, and that can give that 800 meter runner 2 or 3 more seconds advantage over the other team. So even though the 400 isn't the most important leg of the relay, but a lot of times if you have a 400 leg that's clearly better than the rest of the teams, then that can put you in a better position once you come to the last 2 legs. Jack Bruce, I mentioned him in the 1500 mile previews that I did. So if you didn't see that, check out the men's 1500 and mile previews. Jack Bruce, he returns for Arkansas, so he could be a potential runner on Arkansas's DMR leg for the 1600 or the 1200. So Arkansas, will look out for them. Georgetown, they were on the bubble last year in 2017. They were the 12th team that that made it for nationals. They were right on the bubble, but they ended up getting third at nationals. So you see how a bubble team can go to get third at nationals, even though they wasn't able to drop a spectacular time during the season. They didn't have to drop a spectacular time at nationals. They were just able to just run right there in the mix, and they got third. They returned their whole squad as well. So Georgetown, a very formidable team that potentially can do, pull the upset again. But it just also shows you that, once you qualify for nationals, it's anybody's game. Virginia Tech, they were 11th qualifying team in 2017, and then they got second at nationals. So the last two teams got second and third. The last two teams that qualified end up getting second and third at nationals. So again, that just proves my point. They had a season's best of 931, but 931 would have won it last year at nationals. They returned their 1200, 400, and 1600 legs. So most of the majority of their relay returns. They have one of the better 400-meter runners as well. So both Arkansas and Virginia Tech both have runners that's capable of splitting 46 seconds on the 400 legs. So that's very important, and that can probably position them well come those final two legs. Finally, Oregon, they got fourth at nationals in 2017. They returned their 1200, 800, and 1600 meter legs that ran at nationals. But their relay could look very different because they have so many different recruits and transfers. You just never know which team that Oregon is going to put together for their DMR. But they have a decent 400 meter leg as well. So I think that they can put together a strong team with all the recruits and the freshmen and the transfers that they have. They can put together a very dangerous DMR as well. So my picks for the men's DMR, I'm going with Indiana, Stanford, and Oregon as the top three. I think Stanford has one of the best DMRs probably this year that they can put together. I don't know if they're going to run that team at nationals, but I know that they would definitely qualify for nationals. But I think that Stanford, if they ran that team that qualified for nationals, they probably would have the better DMRs. But again, you just never know with the DMRs because you have teams like Georgetown and Virginia Tech who were on the bubble last year but end up getting second and third. So and again, Oregon has a talented roster that they could put together a strong DMR. But you just never know once you get to nationals. So I'm thinking between those three teams, I will pick anyone between those three teams, Indiana, Stanford, and Oregon, as potential winners for NCs. But we just have to wait come March to see how it all plays down. So the men's DMR, there we go. Moving into the women's DMR, it took 11:02:32 to qualify for nationals in 2017. Colorado was the winner in 2017, and they returned their entire squad from 2017 nationals. That race of nationals between Colorado, Stanford, and Oregon was very exciting. Oregon had the lead, I think, going into the last 400 meters of the last leg, and then Stanford started to close down with Elise Craney. And then coming out of nowhere, Danny Jones overtook Elise Craney and Katie Rainsberger from Oregon to win the DMR. So that was a very exciting race. And like I said, Colorado returns all of their runners that ran on that DMR. And of course, Danny Jones returns. And so whenever Danny Jones is on the track, she's definitely one that's, can go for the win. Stanford, they got second last year, as I just mentioned. They returned their 1200 and 1600 legs, but they have some new recruits they can add in the middle with their 400 and 800 legs. So they ran a season's best of 10:59 last season, but it didn't take 10:59 to win it. Oregon, they got third at nationals after setting the NCAA record in the DMR back in January earlier that year. They returned their 1200 and 1600 meter legs from their NCAA record-setting team, and also the 1200 and 1600 legs that ran at nationals that got them third. So they have the potential to run faster than the NCAA record this current year, which is crazy. They set the record last year, but they lost Raven Rogers, who ran on that record-setting team. She actually didn't run at nationals, so that was another shift, another change up of the lineup. But when Raven Rogers ran on that DMR, she only split 203. So that's replaceable for them. They have they have like three 800 girls there that's capable of running 203 or faster. But again, we don't know if they're going to focus them on their individual events or what. So that's that. But I know that probably they have the potential to run faster than the 10:48 that they set last year, and also on their 400 leg, and when they set that 10:48 record last year, they had like a 53-7, 53-8 split in Ashanti Horsley, and they have individuals on their team this year that's capable of splitting, 52, 51 seconds. So they can get the same amount of times in the middle, or maybe even faster in the middle. And then obviously they return that 1200 leg, and then Katie Rainsberger, who ran on the 1600 leg as an anchor. So they returned those two, the two anchors, the beginning and the end leg. So they had the potential, but again, once you get to nationals, the lineups change up, and so it's just hard. You just never know. Indiana, they got 9th at nationals. They had a season's best of 10:55, which is the second best time after Oregon ran at 10:58 the season. They returned their 1200, their 400, and their 1600 legs. So Indiana returns majority of their relay. They ran 10:55, but they only got 9th at nationals. So I think they maybe didn't run Catherine Receiver on their 1600 leg anchor at nationals because she had to focus on her individual events again. Arkansas got 11th at nationals. They have the potential to put together a really good relay this year. They have the components of a 400, an 800, a miler, and a 1200. But again, once again to nationals, I don't know if those individuals will be able to double back from their individual events. BYU and Penn State could also potentially put together some decent DMRs as well. So it's kind of hard. I think that this year, again, it's going to be all Pac-12. I think that at nationals, you're going to have Colorado, Stanford, and Oregon battling out again. I don't see any other teams that once they get to nationals can run enough individuals or have enough bodies that they can still run their individual races and also double back and run the DMR. So Colorado, Stanford, and Oregon, I think that because those runners can focus on the 3K and not do the mile, and they'll be able to be fresh for the DMR, and then the next day they can run a 3K. So like the anchor legs for Colorado, Stanford, and Oregon, they'll potentially run a 3K and don't have to worry about running the mile, and then they can focus on the DMR. But I think that if the race plays out like it did last year, where once you got to the anchor leg, the pace wasn't really blistering the first couple of laps. So whoever has the lead coming into the anchor leg, I think they really have to run an aggressive anchor leg in order to, especially if they have the lead over a Stanford or a Colorado, if they have the lead over a Danny Jones, you have to run a really strong aggressive leg up front in order to separate and not allow Danny Jones to connect early, sit on you, and then kick that last 200 meters. So, but again, I feel like it's going to be all Pac-12 again, and we'll see who comes out on top this year between Colorado, Stanford, and Oregon. The women's DMR, we'll keep you posted. So that concludes my season's preview for the NCAA Division I Track and Field 2018 indoor and outdoor previews. The season will be starting soon, and so we'll be jumping into the meets, we'll be jumping into the results and the performances, and we'll see how it goes. I hope you guys have watched all of my preview videos, or if you watched some of the preview videos, I hope that you find some of them enjoyable. I hope I've included some of your favorite athletes or some of your favorite runners. And we'll just see how the season goes. Thank you again for watching all my videos. For those who have watched or who has watched several of my videos, for those who've commented, who's liked, who subscribed, I appreciate it. And for those who haven't liked, commented, or subscribed, please feel free to do so. Just hit that like button, hit that subscription button, and we'll continue on this journey for the upcoming 2018 season. Thank you. Again, this is the Track and Field Bleacher Reporter, your official track head here, coming to you with my 2018 preview for the men's and women's DMR. Thank you.